Gamecube HDMI adapters and other solutions have come a long way in the past couple of years. It started with internal mods that require the removal of the digital port on the back of the console and has now morphed into external plug-and-play HDMI solutions. These Gamecube HDMI adapters have become very affordable as of late, with the Insurrection Carby V2 being only $75. So in today's video, let's take a look at the Insurrection Carby, compare it to some internal HDMI mods, and answer the question of, is it worth it? So before we get started, let's hear a word from our sponsor, PCBWay. Did you know PCBWay offers solder masks in more colors than just green? That's right, they've got red, yellow, blue, white, black, purple, matte green, and my favorite, matte black. Anyway, make sure you check out PCBWay, link in the description below, and thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. So before we kick things off, here's what I plan to cover in this video to determine if the Carby is worth it. Price, build quality, comparisons to internal HDMI solutions, and future upgradability of the device. All video gameplay will be run off my Metroid-themed GameCube. If you missed this project video, check out the card in the upper right-hand corner as it was an awesome build. The reason I've chosen this console is it has the GC Dual mod installed into it, and provides the ideal comparison for this video, as we will be able to use an internal and external HDMI solution from the exact same console. Before we work our way into a more detailed breakdown, both internal and external solutions are a digital-to-digital output, and it's significantly better than either composite or S-video. I am not sure how much analysis is needed beyond what you're currently seeing on the screen in front of you, but let's just say HDMI absolutely destroys both composite or S-video. As mentioned in the intro, the Insurrection Carby V2 is $75, which is currently the cheapest option on the market, sans debatable quality solutions offered on AliExpress. As it relates to internal modifications, there are a couple different options out there, but they are not significantly cheaper by any stretch. The cheapest option out there is the Pluto 2 FPGA development board, which comes pre-flashed with the firmware, and that retails for $59.99. Installation of the Carby could not be simpler. I mean, it's literally just plug and play. This compares to having to do some soldering and modification to the console to install an internal HDMI mod. The other thing that I would like to point out is the connector on the Carby is an all-metal design that Insurrection claims matches the original component cables one for one. This feels incredibly good when putting it into the system and does an excellent job of protecting the console from shorting out. Yeah, some of the early HDMI adapters did not properly isolate the pins, and those killed GameCube consoles. Zelda X Pro, I'm looking at you, buddy. And if you don't believe me, just talk to this guy. Overall, the Carby is priced extremely competitively and is only a few bucks more than one of the cheapest internal HDMI solutions, and it requires zero soldering. The build quality of the Carby is excellent, from the molded plastics to the metal connector and even properly isolated pins. It looks great and it's designed well. Heck, even when you open the unit, it reveals good, clean soldering, which I'm always happy to see. The remote control that comes with the unit is fairly simple and offers the ability to access the firmware menu. The initial setup out of the box is how I'd prefer it, but within the menu you can make changes such as add scan lines or make other changes to the pop-up boxes and whatnot. The one thing to note with all these GameCube HDMI solutions is that they all use GC Video, which is an open source FPGA core that runs on the Xilinx Spartan FPGA. In other words, I would not expect there to be a ton of differences between all these different HDMI solutions, whether they be internal or external, as at the end of the day, they're all using the exact same FPGA core. To further prove this point, I've lined up video capture from the Carby and from the internal HDMI mod, and as you'll kind of notice, the video output is substantially the same from both. Now, mind you that the actual firmware versions are technically different as the Carby's running a newer version of the GC Video firmware. As you can kind of see, the video is substantially the same between the two. Now, it's worth noting that the different firmwares will technically produce a different video picture. However, a lot of that's going to be for more advanced users, and I'm not sure that your typical average user would care. Next, I want to throw a few exotic things at the Carby. Not that I have any reason to doubt it wouldn't work, but what the heck. So I've loaded up a Super Nintendo emulator, and we're going to check out some Castlevania Dracula X. Now, if you're curious on how to run Homebrew on your GameCube and do it without having to mod your system, make sure you check out the card in the upper right hand corner. Next, we're going to check out the Game Boy Advance player. Of course, the best reason to own a GameCube, or one of the best reasons, I should say, to own a GameCube, is clearly the Game Boy Advance player. So next we're going to check out the Game Boy Advance player, and we're going to check out Super Mario Advance 2. Based on all these tests, the Carby performed really well, and I'm super happy with it. I think it's pretty obvious from the video capture that it performs exactly the same or virtually identically to the internal HDMI mods, and the exotic things we threw at it worked pretty well. So the final thing I want to touch on is future upgradability of the device. So those of you astute watchers might have noticed that there's a JTAG port sitting on the inside of the Carby when I opened it up earlier. This provides easy access to the actual module and being able to do firmware updates. As previously mentioned, the firmware that this uses is an open source FPGA core, and it's actively being developed by its author. So I would expect future updates to be available. Now, one thing that's really nice is Insurrection Industries went one step further, and they even provided instructions that show how to flash the Carby for the newest versions of firmware that will be released in the future. Even better, they populated the header port for JTagging, so it makes it even simpler. I applaud them for doing this because most companies probably would have stopped short of this step and probably wouldn't even have populated the JTAG header port. So overall, I think the Carby is a great option at an awesome price, which offers outstanding visual clarity for all your 480p and 480i GameCube gaming needs. If you're looking for a GameCube HDMI adapter solution, look no further than the Carby. With all that being said, guys, I want to thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a comment, a like, and a subscribe, and I'll catch you guys for the next one here soon.